Hey guys, Scar here, making a video of tips and tricks for raiding, which is probably an oversaturated video idea, honestly, if you ask me. These are some general tips that won't inherently make you any better at your particular role or job. So please make sure to read up on other guides for self-improvement, because this video is just going to, give you a basis for what you should be doing before you go into raid. All right, so on to tip number 1. And I want to discuss free company buffs. So did you know that there are specific free company buffs that can aid you a lot during your progression through raid time? These notable buffs are as follows: Meet and Bead 2 and Proper Care 2. And if you want to see whether you have those in stock, you want to click on Social Free Company and go to your Actions tab within your free company to see if you've stocked up on these. So, like mentioned, you want to have Meet and Proper Care. Meet and Bead just extends the duration of food effects by 10 minutes, and Proper Care slows gear wear by 20%. So basically, what that means is when you pop a food buff, instead of getting 30 minutes to your timer, you end up getting 40. And as for the gear wear, as you can see, the condition of my ring is deteriorated below 100%. Essentially, this will slow down the rate at which my condition drops. Now you're probably wondering, Scar, where can I find these free company buffs? Well, don't worry, that's what I'm here for. So depending on which grand company you started is, this might be a little bit different. I'm going to show the ones for when you are for the Immortal Flames. Unfortunately, I don't have a character that didn't start in Immortal Flames, so I can't really showcase that. But essentially, what you want to do is you want to go to your teleports. You want to teleport to your main city, Limsa, New Gridania, or Ul'dah. I'm already here in Ul'dah, and you want to navigate to the Grand Company location, and you want to talk to the OIC Quartermaster. Once you are here, you want to select the Actions tab, which is the very first one, and here is where you will find all of the buffs that you can buy. Just note, depending on your Grand Company level, you have a max of 15, I believe, when your FC is maxed, and I think subsequently it rises through the ranks. Obviously, we have a max ranked FC, so we have the ability to get 15 buffs. This might be different depending on your FC, but this is where you would find them. Okay, so we're going to keep up with the same theme of buff enhancements, and this comes in the form of Squadron Provision Manuals. You don't have to have your squadrons maxed at level 50, but you should be around level 40 to have the missions unlocked that you need. The manuals of interest are the Squadron Rationing Manual and the Squadron Gear Maintenance Manual. Now, you're probably also wondering, Scar, where do I find my squadron? Well, that cat girl's targeting me. You want to walk over to the barracks here. You're gonna have to do some legwork to unlock this. I don't remember off the top of my head what legwork it is. You probably might want to Google how to unlock squadrons. I can try to provide a guide at the bottom, but yeah, you want to have your barracks unlocked to have your squadron. So here, I want to talk to the Flame Squadron Sergeant, and as you can see, my squadron has failed. Anyways, you want to find the squadron missions. You must go down to the level 40 ones, and I'm gonna write down the names of the specific missions that you need, but these are basically the ones that kind of give you these squadron manuals, so Criminal Pursuit, etc. Just a note, these manuals take Grand Company seals. So if you don't have any company seals, these might be a little bit difficult to get, as well as these buffs only last for 2 hours, and you only get 5 or 10 per mission. So you might want to ration them, as they say. Now, we're moving on to tip number 3, which is food usage. Now, I know I know what you're thinking. Scar, how could you do this? How could you ask me to pop food? That's toxic. And you know what? You're probably right. I am. But here's the thing. Food buffs are pretty important and crucial for when you raid. Now, you can see some of these buffs by, hovering over the specific food. Now, I'm not going to go into the details of what food is best for your class. You might want to do research on your own to try and understand what is going on. I just want to make note that you probably want to use food, and here's one of the main reasons why. The vitality stat that you gain from the food buff. There are certain mechanics that you're doing while progressing through raid that you might have just barely survived if you had a little bit more health. This is where food comes in. Now, obviously, like I said, there's other stats to this, like the critical hit that you can see from the food and the determination from the food. These are all going to go straight to your substats, which are inherently going to mean that you do some more damage. But the point of this video is not to guide you into what food is the best, but rather to just look at it from the perspective of, I will survive more mechanics, therefore I will progress to raid more, which is kind of the whole point of this. Now, another note, as you can see, there's kind of an EXP bonus that comes from food, and this isn't related to raiding, which, funny enough, contradicting the whole point of this video, but just note, this does give a 3% EXP bonus, so if you are leveling up classes that you want to use for raid, you probably want to always have a food buff enabled. Like I said, the food doesn't necessarily matter, as there's a lot of foods that give the 3%. Not sure if it's guaranteed, but most foods will give you a 3% buff, and this will help in the long run. Now, if you thought the last point or the last tip was controversial, just wait till you hear tip number 4. Tip number 4 is learning your rotation and opener for your job. Now, this may come as a surprise, but mashing your buttons or just following the skills that light up isn't the best way to try and kill a boss during raid progression. There is a sequence of buttons that you want to mash during the first 30-ish seconds of the fight called an opener. Some of the benefits of the opener is the unison that you have with your group, maximizing your output and DPS. Now, you're probably wondering, what do I do next? Well, don't worry. After this, you pretty much want to follow a sequence called a rotation. You don't really need to crunch the numbers to find the most optimal opener or rotation, as there are others out there who have did this for you. To figure out where to grab that information for yourself, I will link to the description to some of the tools and websites that I use. The balance is probably going to be the best bet, though. I'll link to their website because they did have a new website. They also have a Discord. I highly encourage you to join these Discords or just read their guides. Honestly, don't be so discouraged. It is honestly difficult to learn new things, but there are a lot of people willing to help, and it's mostly just muscle memory that will make you the Chad of your group. Now, I wouldn't really be a true, guide if I didn't bring up the flank and the rear considerations for melee jobs after telling you to learn your rotation and learn an opener. So, this may not be particularly useful for jobs outside of a melee, so casters, this probably won't be applicable to you. Range probably won't be applicable to you. Healers definitely not applicable to you, and I believe that this isn't going to be helpful to tanks either. But for you melee out there, samurai, monk chads, ninja mains, dragoon, you want to know what a positional is. Now, in Final Fantasy, it is separated into 3 positions. I'm going to use the strike and daimi to showcase. The first is the flank, which is represented by this arrow here. And not exactly this arrow, kind of the area from arrow 2 where the line disappears, subsequently on the other side as well. The rear, which would be considered the back of the striking dummy or the boss that you're fighting, and the front, where you can see the little nipple that's coming out of the headbox. Now, some attacks will ask you to hit from the flank. Here's one. If you are playing Samurai, Kasha will be an ability where you need to hit from the flank. If you are doing Gecko, then you'll be hitting the rear, and you need to meet these requirements to gain essentially a damage quote-unquote buff. I'm not going to say buff, but for some particular classes it might even break your combo. Now I'm going to leave a guide below that will showcase a better job of me than just kind of going through it as fast as possible, so you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about and what I mean by flank. It should be noted that all 5 melee Sorry Reapers, I forgot you existed, within the expansion have some sort of position roll requirement within their abilities, so it is kind of good to read the tooltips and see if your job requires positional. The answer is it most likely will. I know they did try to remove some positionals from some classes as much as they could, but for now, you are still stuck trying to hit these positionals. With that, we conclude all the tips and tricks that I have up my sleeve to make your rating progression easier. Now, I hope that if any of these tips were new, that you'll leave a like, potentially a subscribe. I might work on a more advanced guide that highlights some other particular nuances for improving in any particular role. Like mentioned before, these aren't going to inherently make you better at your job or your role. Certain classes, like tanks and healers, there are often better guides out there that'll showcase you how to play that role, so I recommend watching those. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great experience raiding.